The wind screamed across the high plains like it had a score to settle, snow cutting sideways under a moon thin as a knife blade, and Eli Mercer pulled his collar higher as his horse picked its way through the drifts. Christmas Eve had never meant much to him since the war and the graves that followed, but this night felt heavier than most, the kind of dark that pressed on a man's chest and dared him to keep riding. Somewhere far off a coyote cried, then went quiet. As if the land itself was holding its breath, Eli had planned to reach the abandoned stage, stop before full dark. But Winter had other ideas. His horse snorted and slowed, ears flicking. That was when he heard it. Not wind, not wolf, a sound broken and human. Half lost in the storm, he reined in hard, heart thudding. Bandits used cries to lure fools, but something in that sound carried pain too raw to fake. Eli swung down, boots crunching, and followed the noise toward a stand of frozen cottonwoods. He found her lying in the snow, like something already claimed by the cold. Dark hair spread across white ground, blood stiffening her coat. Crimson, Eli knelt, fingers shaking as he checked for breath. Faint but there, relief hit him hard and fast. Tracks told the rest of the story. Several horses, heavy boots, dragged marks leading away. Bandits, the kind who took what they wanted and left nothing behind. On Christmas Eve of all nights, Eli muttered, a curse meant for men and fate alike. He hesitated only a second. Danger still close, but leaving her meant death for sure. Eli shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her. Lifting her was like lifting ice. She moaned once, eyes fluttering. He whispered steady words. He wasn't sure he believed himself. Then got her onto his horse. Tying her there with care learned the hard way. The storm worsened. Yet turning back felt like the only road left to ride by the time he reached the stage stop. His hands were numb and his shoulders burned. The place was little more than a sagging shack, but it blocked the wind. Eli laid her near the old hearth, started a fire with shaking fingers. The light showed the damage clear. Bruises, a deep gash along her ribs, and fear etched into her face even in sleep. He cleaned the wound, stitched as best he could, every move careful. As if gentleness alone might apologize for the world. She woke near midnight, eyes sharp despite the pain. Her hand went to his wrist, grip surprisingly strong. "Don't," she whispered, voice hoarse. Eli froze, then slowly met her gaze. "Easy, ma'am. I ain't one of them," he said, his voice low and rough. Something in his eyes must have convinced her, because her grip loosened. Tears welled and spilled, silent and shaking, as if now that she was safe, her body finally knew it. Her name was Clara. She said it like it mattered, like it was the last thing she owned. Bandits had taken her family's freight, shot her brother when he fought back, left her when they thought the cold would finish the job. Eli listened without interrupting, jaw tight. The fire popped, and outside the storm howled. Christmas Eve, he thought again, remembering a church bell from another life, and how mercy always seemed to show up when least deserved. As Clara slept again, Eli kept watch, rifle across his knees, every shadow suspect. He wondered what kind of man he was now, drifter, survivor, or something else entirely. Saving her hadn't been a choice, it had been instinct, the same one that once sent him running toward gunfire instead of away. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering tracks, erasing signs of evil, but inside that broken shack, a small fire burned, and for the first time in years, Eli felt like Christmas might still have a meaning worth fighting for. Morning crept in pale and bitter, light leaking through cracks in the shack walls. Eli had not slept. He rose stiff and sore, listening. The storm had eased, but the cold stayed sharp as a blade. Clara stirred when he moved, pain still tight in her face, yet her eyes held a fire that hadn't gone out. He gave her water, checked the stitches, and nodded to himself. She'd live, if luck held. Outside he found the tracks again, half buried but clear enough. Bandits riding south toward the ravine, loaded heavy, moving slow. Eli felt the old pull settle into his bones, the kind that didn't let a man turn away. Clara tried to sit when he came back in. "Don't go after them," she said, voice stronger now. "They'll kill you, same as my brother." Eli shook his head slow, tying his gun belt. "Maybe," he said, "but they won't be coming back here either way, and I can't leave things unfinished." He handed her the rifle, showed her how to use it. "If anyone comes, you shoot first and don't wait to see who it is." Her hands trembled, but she nodded, trust passing between them without words. Eli stepped into the cold, mounted up, and followed the trail like it was carved into his past. The ravine cut the land deep and crooked, shadows clinging to its walls. Eli reined in high above and watched for men, laughing, passing a bottle, their horses blown, packs heavy with stolen goods. Anger burned, steady in him, not hot, not wild, just sure. He moved quiet, snow muffling sound, picking his path downwind. When the first shot rang out, it echoed hard. One bandit fell before he knew danger had found him. The others scattered, shouting, chaos ripping through their camp like fire through dry grass. Gunfire cracked, sharp and fast. Eli moved without thinking, cover to cover, shot measured, every pull of the trigger paid for with memory. A man charged, blade flashing. Eli met him halfway, the fight close and brutal, breath steaming, fists and steel, until it ended in the snow. The last bandit broke and ran. Eli let him go. Justice didn't always mean death. Sometimes it meant fear that lasted longer. Silence followed, broken only by the wind. Eli stood alone among the fallen, chest heaving. Christmas morning arriving, stained and hard-won. He searched the packs, found Clara's family, freight, letters, supplies, small things meant for a better life. Eli took what mattered, left the rest, then turned back north. The ride felt longer, every mile weighed down by the question he hadn't asked yet. What happens after? When he reached the stage stop, relief hit him near to dropping him from the saddle. Clara stood in the doorway, rifle in hand, alive, fierce. She ran to him and stopped herself short, as if unsure she was allowed. Eli smiled. Tired and warm, they buried the dead brother near the cottonwoods that afternoon. The ground hard, the work slow. Clara said words Eli couldn't hear, tears freezing on her lashes. When it was done, she pressed her palm to the grave and breathed deep. The world felt quiet then, not peaceful, but settled, like it was waiting. That night they shared a simple meal, talked low by firelight, stories traded like worn coins. Eli spoke of the war, of the man he used to be. Clara listened, never looking away. Snow fell again as evening drew close, soft this time, forgiving. Clara asked where he'd go next. Eli stared into the flames. He'd never stayed anywhere long. Places had a way of burning, but the thought of leaving felt heavier now, like riding away from something unfinished. He shrugged, said he didn't know. Clara nodded, pain still there but hope threading through it. Sometimes not knowing was the first step toward choosing. Outside the shack, the wind hummed low. Not angry anymore on Christmas night, they sat together in the quiet, sharing the warmth, the past still close, the future uncertain. Eli realized he hadn't thought of running since dawn, hadn't listened for ghosts. Saving Clara hadn't erased what he'd done or seen, but it had given it shape, meaning. Outside, tracks filled in with fresh snow, the land wiping itself clean. And inside that broken stage stop, two survivors held on to a fragile piece, knowing the hardest road still lay ahead, but willing, at last, to walk it together. The days after Christmas moved slow and heavy, like the land itself was thinking things over. Clara grew stronger with each sunrise, color returning to her cheeks, steps steadier, while Eli repaired the stage stop as best he could, patching walls, clearing snow, giving his hands work so his mind wouldn't wander too far. Yet it did all the same. He found himself watching Clara when she thought he wasn't looking, the way she stood against the light, stubborn and unbroken, and wondered when saving someone had turned into needing them close. They talked about leaving once the weather broke. The town of Red Willow lay 2 days east, small but solid, a place with a church bell and a sheriff who still believed in law. Clara had kin there, distant but kind. Eli said he would ride with her, just to see her safe. Nothing more promised, but something unspoken settled between them, the kind of quiet agreement forged not in words but in shared nights and shared scars. The journey began under a grey sky, horses slow but willing, the land opened wide around them, frozen grass, pale hills, the road marked by ruts and memory. They spoke little at first, letting the rhythm of hooves do the talking, but by noon Clara asked him why he'd really stayed, why he hadn't ridden off after the fight. Eli considered lying, but the road had a way of pulling truth loose. He told her about the men he couldn't save, about riding away too many times, about how that night, on Christmas Eve, something in him had refused to turn its back again. Bandits weren't the only danger left in the territory. Near dusk they spotted riders trailing them, not close, but not lost either. Eli slowed, led them into broken ground where rocks rose like teeth. He circled back on foot, rifle steady, and waited. The men passed without seeing him, unaware how close they'd come to dying. When Eli returned, Clara didn't ask questions. She just nodded. Trust absolute now. Built from fire and snow and survival, Red Willow appeared at dawn the next day. Smoke curling from chimneys, bells ringing soft. The sound hit Eli harder than gunfire ever had. Memories rising unbidden. Clara smiled through tears, relief plain on her face. Townsfolk gathered as they rode in, eyes curious but not unkind. The sheriff listened to their story, nodded grave, and promised the bandits would be hunted down, just as slow but steady. Clara's kin took her in, fussing, feeding, surrounding her with warmth she hadn't felt in weeks. Eli planned to leave before nightfall, old habits tugging hard. He packed his things, saddled his horse, but Clara found him by the hitching rail. She thanked him, not just for saving her life, but for staying, for listening, for choosing something harder than riding on. She offered him a place, not a promise, just the chance to see what tomorrow held. Eli felt the weight of the years press on him, then ease. He nodded once. That was all it took. Spring came early that year, or maybe it just felt that way. Eli stayed on, working where he could, fixing fences, helping the sheriff track trouble, learning the slow comfort of belonging. Clara healed fully, strength returning not just to her body but her laugh. They shared meals, shared silences, and slowly, without ceremony, shared a life. The past didn't vanish. It never does, but it loosened its grip, becoming something remembered rather than something feared. On the next Christmas Eve, snow fell gentle and clean. Eli stood outside the small house they'd built together, lantern glowing in the window, Clara inside humming softly. The land stretched quiet and wide. No screams, no gunfire, just peace earned the hard way. Eli realized then that saving her had saved him too, that some roads don't lead away, they lead home, and under the winter sky. With the past behind him and hope ahead, Eli Mercer finally believed he was exactly where he was meant to be.